Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Welcome. It's June the 16th, year 2021. Welcome to our Facebook Live. I hope everyone is doing well. It almost is getting close to the start of summer here in the United States. And we also are approaching Father's Day weekend. So happy Father's Day to all the fathers that are in this spiritual family. Happy Father's Day to you, Caesar. It's good to see you. Welcome. So here we are back with our panel. I don't think everybody from the panel is going to join us today. They are having, they've been taken away for some other personal engagement. So the only people that we have are April is here, who is our psychic and the spiritual teaching, spiritual counseling. Good evening, April. Good to see you. I had an amazing conversation right before about synchronicity already with April before this started. And then we have Caesar, who is our channel and spiritual teacher. Welcome, Caesar, and happy Father's Day, whenever Father's Day arrives. And then, of course, our incredible Eileen that is going to keep us streamlined. So let me see, Caesar, if I can paste this question for you. Did you want to read it, Eileen, or you're tagging people, right?
I am tagging people, and I read it, but do you want me to read it out loud?
Yes, please. Thank you.
What are some immediate ways to dispel the feelings of resistance in the moment it comes up? When it is strong at a time when I need to be able to respond to a situation fairly immediately. I get how to address long-standing ones by sitting with them, but how can I get back to center when just a focused breath or two is not enough?
So this question comes from Marla. The group meditators have become our greatest co-creators, right, of this Facebook panel as well. So she sent me this through email. So April, you want to get started? What are some of the immediate ways to dispel the feelings of resistance at the moment it comes up?
Well, I think she's kind of, she's on the track because she's aware. So for me, awareness is key. Being aware that I'm having resistance, being aware of the negative emotion. And I can think of this happening, often in my job that I do, where it's an emotional environment. So everybody could be just calm and fine. And then a few seconds later, it's kind of like a tailspin. So I have a practice that I do that I kind of mentioned last time, that for me, I got it from Eckhart, but it's kind of a morphed through a bunch of his talks. I kind of morphed this practice out of his teachings, and it is that I decide how I want to be. So I take that word being and I have morphed it into, how do I want to be? Do I want to be calm? Do I want to be peaceful? Do I want to be present? Do I want to be, who am I being right now? Am I being the mom? Am I being the professional? But when you decide how you want to be, that in turn determines your behaviors. So if I want to be calm, then I have set myself in that presence of being calm. And then my behaviors come from that presence. So when she says, how do I get back to center? I stay in that center. I stay in the center of, I'm going to be calm presence. So therefore, anything that is thrown at me, I don't react. I don't get that. I don't react to that strong emotion. If I do notice a strong emotion, I'm being calm. So that's one way to do it, is to pull yourself back into how you want to be. Okay. The other thing is, the breaths do work, taking the breaths, recentering. And she's saying that she needs to respond quickly. Well, if you need to respond quickly, usually what I do is respond once I set myself back into presence, then I respond in the calmest, kindest way that I can for that moment. That's what I would start with this. That's where I would start.
Perfect. Thank you so much, April. So I wish Kelly was here because he could probably explain it. What I feel is to be centered, like you're saying, right? Sit in your body, be centered in your body so that you don't react. You need a lot of body presence. You may, that may be the part that is missing, is there is more practice that is needed so that she's sitting in her body more, centered in the body more, right? So I was listening to the audiobook by Dr. Joe Dispenza. I've been, ever since Eileen talked about Dr. Joe, I started listening to his videos, and now I bought his book as well, right? So the one insight I had, most of it is almost the same teaching like Eckhart, right? It's all about, I love this term he uses. He calls it the generous present moment, right? So that is the grace of the present moment. But what he said was, this example he's given in so many videos and in the book, he says, we are so used to getting up, then we go brush our teeth, then we go get that favorite mug of coffee, and then get a coffee, shower, get in the car, and now we are in traffic and irritated, right? So we do it day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now we are getting used to it, habitually training our body to feel that irritation. So if day number 300, we sit down in meditation one morning, right? He says, then the body is going to want, the body is the unconscious mind. The body is going to want that irritation, and it'll generate an emotion. So the body is the one that generates the emotional field, right? Now we are experiencing this resistance. The body is feeling so familiar. So it's like what I feel is the body is multiplying, right? Instead of just feeling a little bit of resistance, you're already like spiraling up.
So when I say I choose how I'm going to be, that is part of what Joe Dispenza is saying, where I am making a conscious effort to be different than how I had been, right?
Yes.
Because when I'm making that conscious choice, I'm going to be calm, I'm going to be peaceful, because that's how I want to be. That's good for me, that's good for you, that's good for the earth, everybody. Now I'm making that choice, that difference. And he says the unconscious mind, we do things so much that we no longer even have to think about it. The unconscious mind, the body will just take over, instantly get angry, right? And the bigger the emotional response, the more personal you have taken whatever scenario, is another area too to look at with it.
Perfect. Thank you, April. So we have to train, that's the other part of the training, is to train our body not to respond, right, with that emotion. So he has a practice of replacing that emotional field with joy. That's another thing that we can do. But let's move to Caesar, and then maybe I'll have some more insights. Caesar,
Okay.
you want to respond to Marla's question? Thank you.
Sure. Beautiful explanation by April, as always, and nice, as well as yourself, Poonam. So yeah, where to direct your attention is probably the question. And I would say first out by surrendering to the moment, whatever the moment contains, that will give you a sense of presence power, yes. That's the opposite of your resistance, is instead of acceptance, in this case, we'll call it surrender. And I recently had an experience as such when I was comforting a pet who was like a child to me in the moment, watching him suffer, and it was overwhelming. Sadness came over me, and although I felt like I accepted it, I was overwhelmed with tears. I couldn't even talk to take a conscious breath for about an hour, maybe two. And as soon as I surrendered to the moment, as this is it, the one thing that kept coming up for me was an old Bible passage, "This too shall pass." Or as Eckhart Tolle would say, "Die to the past every moment." And I let that be. And that was enough to sustain a great deal of peace. And what April just mentioned about the more emotional you get, basically, it's because you're taking it more personal. And I fully believe that, looking back at it now, I did take that personal. It was the sadness of him going and me being separated from him. So part of it was an attachment. So I believe, yeah, surrender to the moment first and foremost. And that is a beautiful thing that you were at least aware of the resistance. But to take action against the resistance, you must do one of three things in the moment. And that would be to surrender, accept, or forgive. Again, three faces of the same coin, first and foremost. So yeah, where do you place your attention in the moment would be entirely up to you, and how conscious you are about what is taking place within you. Thich Nhat Hanh, a great Zen master, he always refers to being able to see clearly through the turbulent waters, not so much as to a still body of water. And it's the same thing with the mind, to be able to see clearly and focus your attention where it needs to be instead of acting on emotion, because that's a big mistake. In most everything we do is act on our emotions instead of acting from a place of consciousness. So having said that, it is important, and it's a blessing that you are at least aware to that level, like April said, that you're recognizing the resistance within you. That's the first step on your journey to being able to do something about it. And I love how April addressed the being in you, the be, just be. That was beautifully explained, April. So yeah, that's about it. I would just say surrender to the moment, fully, and then be still before you make a decision to action. There's one of my favorites is an expression called woo-wee, and it is actionless doing. It means basically you're doing nothing, but in essence, you are doing something. You're leaving it be. Sometimes that is the best thing to do. And if it requires a response and you can maintain a level of consciousness, trust that the universe or God, source, whatever it is you want to call it, is delivering the answers that you need at the exact time you need them. It is very important to understand that. And that will carry you through and get you to an understanding of what needs to happen, when it needs to happen, because everything happens exactly how it should in the exact timing that it should. I believe that. So surrender to the moment.
And then thank you so much, Caesar. So when April was reading the question, I realized that there was an immediate need for an answer. And the question is there an immediate need for an answer? Can we not say, hey, I really don't have an answer right now. Let me get into presence and I'll come back to you in a half hour or so. If you're feeling the reaction, right? I'm experiencing resistance. I'm already not going to make a right choice if I'm experiencing resistance, right? So it's best not to make a decision at all at that point in time. If nothing requires, our mind is telling us that we need an immediate answer, right? Eckhart had this, he kind of explained this, I think J. Krishnamurti and Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein's parents, I think, thought that he was pretty dumb. And J. Krishnamurti, when Eckhart says in his talk that when they picked him up from the Theosophical Society, when they picked him up as the, what do they call it, that he was going to be the next Redeemer, the next Buddha, right? They thought that he, as a child, J. Krishnamurti was pretty dumb because in that thoughtless awareness, both of them as kids would not raise their hand. You know, here, like in the competitive world, the kid that raises his hand in class first, we go to that, the teacher goes to that kid and goes, yes, that kid is good and he always has answers. That is rewarded, right? But why can't we say, I don't know? The don't know mind that Byron Katie says, I don't know. And in this moment, and why can't we say, I am not in the state to give a proper response at this moment? If I'm experiencing that resistance, why can I not say, I am not in, this is not the moment that I can make the right decision. I will come back to you with an answer. Even that is an answer, right? That shows more power. That is more empowering than just saying something that is. You were going to say something, Caesar? You're on mute, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to type I was just going to say that it's okay to not know. Perfectly fine. 100%. It's okay. And the answers will come to you when they need to.
Awesome. Thank you. And then let me go to Eileen, and then I'll have another thing that I actually responded to her. And this is something that April also has brought up and Eckhart has brought up during School of Awakening as well. So Eileen, did you want to speak about this topic?
Sure. A couple of things actually came up for me because when I first read the question, I thought inner body awareness, being able to recognize what it is that you're feeling on the inside, because sometimes that gives you more information than what your mind's going to lead you to believe. But that's one thing that I try to do, is try and figure out how my body is reacting, what I'm feeling, focusing that. So full awareness of the present moment, not just of whatever the thoughts are that are kind of going through, running through my head at the moment. The other thing that came up for me was that, and I just said this on my podcast like the other day, that there's a Buddhist parable of the second arrow. I don't know if you guys have heard of that before. But it's, so if you have something happen, something that is causing resistance, like that's the first arrow. There's something you can do about it to change it. It happened. It is what it is. But then the second arrow comes when we suffer through that because we're reacting or not sitting with it or accepting it and being present with it. And I was talking about that because we were talking about awareness. And I think that shows how important it is to be fully accepting and aware of the present moment. I know sometimes when we are suffering, it's hard to do that. So you need tools like inner body awareness or breathing or meditation. So I mean, there's lots of tools out there to use, but I definitely think of how much additional suffering humans go through because they don't take the time to truly be present and aware of what's going on within themselves when something like this comes up. And the last thing that came up for me was when you guys were just talking about, it's okay to wait to respond. I just posted something today in my personal Facebook page about, you know, when you plant the seeds, you don't get the fruit right away. Like, and as a teacher, that's something that really resonates with me because, we teach kids, information, content, material, but just because they're being taught it or exposed to it or they're reading something, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to understand something or be able to answer a question in that moment. And I think that's a ridiculous expectation that people have, that, it is just planting of seeds, really.
Thank you so much, Eileen. Beautiful. So the part that I got reminded of when I had read that question was Eckhart is asked this question that somebody has this reactivity. And so Eckhart explains, and the person was asking him, the questioner was asking Eckhart, how do you stop the reactivity? And so what Eckhart said is the first time you just react, it's going like what Eileen was saying, the arrow, the first arrow is going to make you react. Then the second stage of this is when we develop some more presence practices, we will react, but be in the awareness that we reacted, right? After the fact, right? And then the third stage is as we are reacting, we are seeing the reaction, but we are still reacting. The fourth stage, I think I missed the third stage for Marla, that while we are reacting, we are still observing the reaction. The fourth stage is to be able to sit back and, yeah, there's a reaction and you're not reacting. You don't outwardly have any reaction. The fifth stage is to not react as well. The other part to it, I feel, is we shouldn't be hungry or tired when some kind of resistance is coming, right? Because I remember on on Monday, I was tired. I had gone for a long walk over the weekend. So you know how muscle tiredness, you actually feel it on the second day. So I was feeling tired. And then I had to make my spinach soup and my steamed potatoes and my celery juice. There was a lot going on in the kitchen. And so my son comes and something happened between that. I did feel like a surge of negative emotion. And it almost was, and this is something I'm going to ask you, April. Wouldn't this be that maybe some of the resistance is actually the first wound? Like I almost, in my mind, I responded. I didn't react outwardly, but in my mind, I went through the same tape that my mom used to say to me. Like she may say, oh, her tape used to be, oh, I'm the mother of 2 children. There's nobody helping me. I'm here, a poor school teacher, supporting 2 children. And there was like that same tape ran the first day that something happened, the second day, for 20 years of my life, I've heard that, right? So isn't some of that reactivity a conditioned pattern that and that's what I felt. I almost, when I was tired, that tape ran in my head and then I could see it and I stopped. And guess what happened? I was steaming potatoes. The pot, you know how sometimes when you leave the stove on high, the water burns out because you're steaming. And I looked at the blackened pot and I knew that my internal negativity was in the pot. right? And I smiled. I smiled for the rest of the evening. I was like smiling and laughing. The rest of the evening, I knew what happened, right? Yeah, that just minute surge and the tape, her tape. So do you want to speak about that? Thank you.
That is a core issue that I find across the board in what I do at work, even when I do other spiritual teachings or I do a reading on somebody, we find those core messages. And if you're listening to Joe Dispenza, he talks about this much more than Eckhart talks about it, but he talks about it in a different way. That 0 to 7 programming is so crucial. It's so phenomenal to me. It is literally phenomenal. I will get somebody that has this programming that they got 3-4 years old, and they are now seeing me literally 62 years old, and that programming is still there. It is such a phenomenal thing to me that it stays. And I don't think, because the human cells are intelligent and they they hold information and they remember everything, that while we can retrain our conscious mind to act, respond, and behave in a different way, and we can retrain the subconscious mind as well, we cannot delete that information. So therefore, if we are not present, we can be triggered. And I think that we can always be triggered if we are not, and we're not going to always stay in the present moment, because we are human. And again, one of the things that I've been, seems to be coming up more and more lately with people is life is not going to be a straight line. It is going to have ups and downs. It is going to ebb and flow. You are going to get triggered. And then life's going to calm down and it's going to be almost kind of boring. You almost want to create some chaos. And then it's going to go back up and you're going to go, whoa, okay. So those things are going to happen. And the key is, doing like what you did, where you notice, oh, wait a minute, I'm triggered. And then, yeah, the pot is full of black in it. And, but when you're at this stage, it can, it can become funny. And when you have started to change, reprogram, a lot of people who have not done that, what they will do is they will slip back into, oh, see, this doesn't work. I can't do this. It's too hard. But that's not the case. This is just an example of I need to get back into my presence. I need to get back. I need to center and, regroup and move forward. So yeah, very much so.
Thank you so, so much. Good evening, Travis. Good to see you.
Hi, good to see everyone.
Are you able to see the question that Marla asked, or do I need to type it again?
Let me see.
It may not show up because you just went.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Oh,
I'll come to you,
Okay.
Travis. Let me circle around. Okay.
Okay.
So you
Mhm.
get a chance to read the question.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you so much, April, for that insight. Beautiful. Caesar, you want to talk about, it could be reactivity. Like I said, a tape from your mom is running, right? A tape from your past is running.
Sure, yeah.
And
the
you
tradition-
would end up blaming the son and saying, you know what normal behavior of my mom would have been? Oh, these people always irritate me. They're demons. These kids always irritate me. And that's why the pot is black. And I knew that my inner energy was showing up in that pot. right?
Yeah, what an amazing journey. Yeah, it's usually when about our late 40s or perhaps 50 or when we're rounding the corner into our golden years that we are able to recognize that it, as you explained it. God, what a perfect explanation again, April. That was just awesome. I love the analogy on how the cells are intelligent within themselves, or hold an intelligence within themselves. Each and every trillion cell in your body has that capability. But as far as that conditioning goes of, what was instilled in the subconscious, as far as old patterns, and it creates our assistant thinking. Yeah, to be aware of that's what's happening, and the old adage from a past 20 years earlier, to recognize that is pretty awesome, because then you have the ability to change it once you are aware of what's happening. It brings me back to the law of attraction and the energy that's inflicting, or as Darryl Anka would say through Bashar, is to change the definition of a situation that's happening. With the things that we were called irritations, we could change that to opportunities. How? By changing the meaning, changing the definition that's applied to it. That's bad because that's what mom told us, and this is how we react to a situation like that, because that's how my mom and dad and all my brothers reacted to similar situations. And you'll find that if that's uncomfortable, if it's not working for you, or maybe you've seen it. I was the youngest out of 6 children, so I got to see what worked on how my family members were reacting to certain situations and what didn't work. And I paid close attention, especially to the things that didn't work. I don't know if they got it, but I did. So I didn't have to go through a lot of the pain that they did, perhaps, but I did, in my own sense, other ways, the up and down. And it was amazing because my father always stepped back, and he seen me heading for trouble, and instead of warning me, he would brief me, but he would let it happen without trying to coddle me, where my mom would try to coddle me and protect me from all that. My dad let me fall on my face and get back up. But yeah, for everybody on this planet, it is a roller coaster. It will be at some point in time. Nobody skates through in a straight line, like April said. We can lessen that angle of bouncing off the walls, perhaps, but you're never going to get the straight line. You might, if you're Buddha or Eckhart Tolle, he wouldn't even have the straight line, would he? No. So yeah, your reactions would kind of go back to the answers from the last question, in that the stillness and the waiting for the answer to come. And if you react in this particular manner, that X is going to happen, and if you react this way, Y is going to happen, and so on and so forth, where you're able to sit back and maybe try something different. At this time, somebody made an analogy to our lives in relations to a clock being, the first 15 minutes, or the first 15 minutes of the clock is, infant stage to, 15. And then from 15 to maybe 30 is when we're kind of getting dumped on our heads all the time. And life is just smacking us around with all these lessons left and right. And then we're kind of starting to learn and get things figured out 40 through, 55. And then when it's from the 9 to the 12, we're on our way up them our golden years. That's when we put all the learning into place and exercise. And I believe that might be the point where we're at. And now in figuring these things out, what works as far as reactions, cause is not before and effect is not after, says Confucius. But so, being aware of your actions and what had worked previously, having realized that you're picking up some things from a conditioned, mindset to a particular reaction. So, how you play that out is entirely up to you, and to recognize that it is perhaps some old conditioning going on there, or traits carried over from, family members or stuff like that is important to realize it. But unfortunately, we don't really get to see that. Most people don't experience that until we're getting into our 40s or 50s, perhaps 60s.
Thank you so much, Caesar. Eileen, did you want to say something about what I just said? my observation of my Monday evening.
I'll say that that kind of stuff happens to me. And then I'm like, I don't think about the connection until much later. You like noticed it right then, but um afterwards, like later, I'll be like, well, no wonder that happened. Because, you know, I don't think I have anything to add. I think between Caesar and April, really, I don't really have anything to add. I'm sure Travis will have something, but I do not.
Thank you so much, Eileen.
Mhm.
And after speaking so much about limiting beliefs and how we co-create our personal reality, the moment reality showed in front of me, there's no way I could not recognize that it was my internal energy that caused it.
All
So-
connected
Very, very much so.
all the time. Here. I'm getting faster at recognizing it. It's not as late anymore.
The quantum entanglement, as Dr. Joe Dispenza says, we are entangled. Travis, it's so good to see you. This question comes from Marla. So do you want to say something? We've already gone through one round of speaking about it, but do you have any more insights on what happens if immediate ways to dispel the feelings of resistance?
Well, first, I'm just so glad to be here with all of you, and I've missed you. And I'm between my work trip and my vacation. I'm just home for one night, and I didn't realize before that it lines up on this day. So I'm glad to be here. And
Awesome.
yeah, and so I guess what comes up for me in response to Marla's question is, and this is just what works for me, is if one can recognize, and I don't know how easy this is from individual to individual to do, but this is my own way of looking at things, and kind of the language I use for myself that helps me is being able to recognize that which is most important to not overlook. And I know when I am able to recognize that, I'm able to also recognize that fact that it is indeed that which is most important to not overlook. And how I'm able to recognize that is because of the impact that it has on me. It feels so good to be in contact, in immediate contact in this moment with that which is supporting everything. That when I find it, I know it's it. So if in any moment during my day, I can touch that or find that again and get to know it a little bit better, then that helps me. That's transcendent, and that's grounding. And so I think that to be realistic, if one wants to be able to, I mean, in looking at her question, she wants to dispel the feelings of resistance that come up in the moment. But I think ideally, if possible, we would want to not even have any feelings of resistance arise in the first place, if we could. Because then we don't have to dispel them because they haven't come up. So, and so to me, there are situations that arise, there are thoughts that arise, there are feelings and emotions that arise, there are life events and situations and circumstances that arise. They exist for a time, they subside. And so but to be realistic, we have to practice just always, because our attention isn't really trained. It's always going, oh, there's that emotion, and we just go to it outward. Oh, there's that thought, go to it outward. There's that that situation, that thing I want, it reminds me of when I walk my friend's dog. She's just youthful and curious, and everything around her attention is pulled. And I have to give her a yank on her collar, and she goes, oh, oh, and she remembers to come be beside me because her attention goes outward, outward, outward. So we have to do that with our own selves, with our own minds. And it's best to practice in situations that aren't as challenging, knowing that those challenging situations will invariably come to test us. So if we practice all the time, and you know, for me, the words that have come up for it in the last couple of days in my poetic, romanticized, playful way, in my personal language for myself, is I say that I love loving divine love. I could do it all day, and then I could do it again. And that refines my consciousness. It refines my heart. It refines my love. And when I do that, then I can already feel immediately that I'm more likely to be able to meet anybody in any situation with a greater degree of grace when they come. And so that's what I would recommend, however silly that may sound, or I don't know how it sounds, but to say, to again and again and again, fall in love with loving divine love. Practice going to the heart of life. That's another way of saying what I just said. Don't go out, go into the heart, into the center. Don't go outwards, go in. And when we can practice that in easy moments, when we're going for a walk or brushing our teeth or meditating or whatever it is that we do that is relatively mundane or not excessively challenging, then knowing those things will come, hopefully, and we'll see. And it's okay if we react. It's okay if we fall and falter and fail. That's life. But if we practice in all those moments, then we're doing our due diligence to train ourselves to be ever ready to meet any situation that comes to rise. And then I think ultimately we can come to a place where it's pretty cool. There's a power that's greater than us flowing through us. And I think there's a greater relative sense of ease, and the sense of threat of potential situations becomes less and less and less and less, until ultimately we don't feel threatened by situations that come, and we can meet them with the love that they deserve.
Incredible. You hit it out of the park, Travis. Thank you so much. Because I had a couple of images come in the moment, the one part where you said, why do we even need to dispel resistance? The moment you stressed on those words, I realized that she is not in a surrendered state. And so what is it that does not make her in the surrendered state? That means still an image of an identified mind is there, the ego is there, and somebody tore down the ego. And then came the resistance, right? And so when you were saying this part about, and that's what the ego does. When you were saying, they were both images were tied. When you were giving the image of, you look in the external, like the dog looking in the external world. So we are still, that means the body, and we talked about it before you joined us, Travis, that the body is the one that is always creating that emotion. So the body wants to go external, look for something external because we are not inhabiting and we are not in presence, we are not surrendered, we are not one with the divine, we are not aligned, we're looking out, we're jumping out. And that's why we want an immediate response as well. Because one of the things we discussed is it's okay not to respond. It's okay to say, right now, I am, because she has enough awareness that there is resistance. The moment you have enough awareness that there is resistance, you say, I'm not in a position to respond right now, because whatever choice I make right now will be unconscious because I'm not in presence. So I don't even need to respond. So why is there a need to immediate respond? Right? So beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for that image. That's what the ego does. The ego wants to go into the external world, right? Give me this thing of pot. Give me this big slice of cheesecake, or give me this. It's looking for satisfaction externally. And in that, we are causing, even the resistance is that groping or the wanting, the egoic wanting. It's a wanting. Somebody tore down our ego. And so Eckhart's solution to this is allow your ego to be diminished. We don't need to respond. Allow yourself to be humble. Allow ourselves to be vulnerable. Allow ourselves to be our divinity, like you were saying. Right? Beautiful. Thank you so much. Ken, I see you join. Good evening. You were going to share something with us, Ken? You're not, you're on mute. So ask you unmute. There we go.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I'm amazed on what's going on with me, that I'm mirroring everyone on the panel. And I've been listening for a few weeks, and I've been going in and out of fear. But then when in alignment again, I can't believe what I'm hearing. And I can see how everybody is working off one another. And I'm doing the same thing in other areas, but have no one to share this with. So I'm just really amazed how, even about me earlier today, thinking I want to be on this tonight. And then on Friday, last Friday, I'm like, I got to be on here. So I'm really starting to feel my inner GPS or my inner alignment to source. It's no accident that the frequency in the thinking patterns are very similar. And I've tried to share what I'm saying right now with others, and they're not getting it. But now I'm hearing it with you, with the panel, and I'm starting to realize this loving energy in another way, where I'm not having the fear to speak, because I have so much fear, thinking I'm not good enough. I won't be able to say what I want to say. I get confused, and then I say so much and I cut off. But I'm not feeling that with the panel. I'm like, okay, there's something that I'm being drawn to that is very healing for me. And I love the explanation when you first go through it, like Eckhart had mentioned. There's something that you had said, Poonam, what Eckhart says when you first say it, but then you say it the second time and there's more information, and it's almost like we're elevating our energy field. And then we realize how we're taking in the information and how the ego interferes. So I'm just so amazed that I feel like, in a sense, I found my tribe in a way where I'm like, wow. This, anyway, I could keep going. And even as I'm talking and listening, I feel like I'm being reprogrammed, or I'm just falling into a whole different field of frequency, and realizing how interconnected we really are in such a deep level, beyond, the communication is the frequency, and it comes through the body, and it just comes through spirit. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Ken. Beautiful. Phenomenal. You were going to join us one day. Like, did you want to join us one day and speak about a certain event in your life? Was it a
Um,
near-death experience?
I would, and there's something else that I have really a hard time with is how to be on the computer. I have such a hard time. And then I probably learned more about the computer the last 2 or 3 months.
Okay.
That has
Okay.
been fear around that, and that has been blocking me. And I'm like, okay, enough's enough. I got to work through this. So
Or you can do the same thing, join by phone and speak about it. Did you want to join next Wednesday?
I'm actually going to be away. I'm actually going to
Okay.
go to Portland, Oregon for 10
Okay.
days. So I won't
Okay.
be available next week.
No worries.
Thank you, though.
Whenever you're back. Okay.
Thank you
Thank
very much.
you. Beautiful. I think I've told Travis this before. The Sufis actually call it being one with their beloved whenever they go into meditation, or they call God or divinity their beloved, right? And that's what I do when I go for my meditation. In my mind, I go, I'm going to be one with my beloved, and I'll go into meditation myself. So beautiful picture. Thank you.
Thank you.
I see Brian on the. Brian, you've joined. Did you have any questions for us? Or did you want to contribute any insights? Okay, he's just listening. Great, thank you. So going back to April, so I had another insight about this as well, April, that the resistance could be the first wound, right? Is the resistance that you cannot control the resistance? Is it your first wound? Like as a child, maybe, okay, I'll take the example of myself. I've told so many times, my mom was pretty abusive, right? Like verbally and physically abusive. So anytime anybody verbally uses a scathing voice, a resistance will arise. But that resistance is of the 3-year-old or the 4-year-old that got yelled at for no reason, right?
Yeah, and that's partially what I meant by that 0 to 7 programming, those events that happen. That's also what I meant by this cell holds the memory literally forever, not just this lifetime, but other lifetimes. And so we can have one original wound, or we can have several original wound. But what you're calling it, we do call it in my field, like what we do, the tape.
Mhm.
It rewinds and it plays over, and it rewinds and it plays over consistently forever. It's amazing, until you rewire the brain. But like in your case, even in my case, it can continue to get triggered, be triggered. For me, my biggest triggers are, well, my husband is a big trigger, but my children are another giant trigger. And I, I don't know if my children are my trigger because of the abandonment with my mom. So that's the original wound, where I have such a close relationship with my girls, but say we're not getting along, or one of them, they're girls, for the love of God, they're girls. They're emotional or they're moody or whatever. I think because of my original wound with my mom, when my relationship with my girls is having a rough time, that original wound seeps in. right? It creeps in on me. So yes, that original wound seems to stay even when you do this work. And that's what I mean by, we can be triggered. The job is not necessarily to not be triggered. Eckhart seems to have mastered that fairly well. Some other masters have mastered that, but I don't think the job is to not be triggered. I think the job is to be aware of when we have been triggered and to stay in our presence power as much as we possibly can. And I think that I see this pattern with a lot of people, several different wounds. Like one of my daughters, she had this theme in her life because she was bullied at school. So that not being accepted plays out at home. It plays out with friends. It plays out at work. That's still the original wound. We're still back at this. But I also think that that original wound is linked to your soul's mission this time, right? So it's linked to learning to love yourself, learning to accept yourself. Maybe you came here to learn patience this time. So it will be linked to that original wound, whatever lesson you signed up for. And that means that we're supposed to learn from that. We're supposed to be able to heal it, move forward, learn from it, because it's part of our original path. Does that make sense?
So let me switch. I switch between full screen to gallery view if anybody's thinking, what am I doing at the top of the screen? Because I want to see you like completely like give presence to the person. So I switched to full screen. And I've heard the participants that are online, they like it too, because then they can see that one panelist instead of small windows. So wouldn't it be that one of the things that I've heard Dr. Deepak Chopra in one of his initial 21-day meditations say is almost go to each one, like wounded 1-year-old, then 2-year-old, 3-year-old, and replace that with joy. Replace that emotional feeling with joy, right? And I feel, go ahead, April.
So I'm chuckling because in my field, one of the cliches that everybody hates to hear is, well, how does that make you feel? Right? I'm a counselor. How does that make you feel? By the way, I never say that, but that when you said that, that's what it made me think of. And most people in my field, clients that I work with, they don't want to go back to the childhood. My childhood was fine. My mom and dad were, no, you have to go back there. We have to go back there if we want to heal the core bottom line issues. And I tell them, we don't have to stay there, but we got to go back there. And then one of the exercises that I like to do is having them either go back to the 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 7-year-old, doesn't matter, and either take themselves or take an angel or take a grandpa and heal that child, give that child love, support, joy. I think that is such a crucial exercise. But when I say that, they all look at me and are like, really? I'm like, yes, I mean it. Like, I have done it myself. I use the Archangel Gab. I use her as Gabrielle because that angel could be male or female. And I take her back to a swing and I just lay on her lap and we just swing. And I've done that so many times for myself. So that, I love that exercise. I love it.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for the solution as well. So that's another part that can be done for anybody that has childhood. The resistance is coming from some resistance pattern that was learned over the childhood and replacing that childhood wound with joy, right? That needs to be introduced. Thank you so much, April. Grateful for all your input. Eileen, you've done Dr. Joe Dispenza's work. What do you think?
Yes.
Is it the first initial wound, the first arrow?
I'm just listening to April. I love listening to April. She's sharing things, and Lakshmi's responding that she's going to try those exercises. And I was just sitting here thinking, like, I want to do that. Like, I can't visualize. I don't have that like part of the brain, but I do have the ability to like feel and sense. So I'm suddenly like forgetting even what you guys were talking about, because my mind is like, well, wait a second, I think I can still do this. And although I have healed from that initial trauma that we've talked about quite a few times, I imagine that there are others that are, in there in those first 7 years that are not healed. So I don't even remember what I was going to say. It's like,
if you remember, come back and tell us, okay? Thank you. What I would say is, because you cannot look at images in your imagination, journal the experience, but then replace the joyful experience. Even that is a journal. It's not an image or a feeling. You write the joy down. One part is the gratitude, right? We've gone through this in January, or whenever we were doing the abandonment for, I don't even know how many times we've talked about abandonment, but the gratitude for the fact that we don't know that this parent could have been unconscious, and so they let go, right?
no, that's what healed that particular one for me, was just gratitude for that actually happening to me. It's just instant healing, gone. Like I'm telling you, I haven't even had an experience with that since, ever.
Beautiful.
But like I said, I'm sure there's other things in there.
So our experience of the present moment, this resistance of the present moment, is programmed already within us, and that programming is showing up, right? It's something from the past. We're taking the past, like Dr. Joe Dispenza says, we're taking the past and moving it to the future, past into future, past into future. If the same resistance patterns are arising over and over again, so there is some definite programming within, right? So thank you. Caesar, did you want to say anything about the first initial wound? Have you experienced, what do you do in your channeling? What do you walk the person through when you channel for them? And what transformation do you see in them?
I get a lot of ones that actually vary. I mean, depending on the situation, some is abusive, some is physical. So it really just depends on the individual. You try to walk them through, and if, like April was saying, we have to go back and revisit the past in order to heal it. I usually express them as opportunities when you are, say, traveling and you pass a building that reminds you of, where them feelings come up, per se. Them are the times that I would like to take advantage of when they come up. They're there for a reason. And for me personally, that's when I take the time, like say it was like the passing of my father years ago. I couldn't go anywhere without seeing a building that we worked on together, something like that. So, through Eckart's work, I learned that when them sad emotions or whatever it is comes up, that is the time to address it by fully accepting the isness of, that situation, instead of just shoving it back down. That is, in a sense, dissolving it into the light of consciousness. Yes. So, but as April said, yeah, you have to revisit the past to heal from it. Yeah, I mean, April pretty much hit it on the head, took words out of my mouth again. Thank you, April. But yeah, pretty much the same technique applies. Yeah.
So you're almost saying go back to the actual location.
The actual event, yeah, or situation. That would be the root cause of whatever it is that's bringing us about, right? So it would be that you have to really dissolve into the light of consciousness again, by fully accepting the isness of it. It happens, you can't change it. As far as the conditioned patterns and reactions that keep taking you back, when that does happen, that is the time to sit with it and heal from it by fully accepting. Don't take it personal. There was a lesson, and sometimes the 30 years of pain that you carried it around with you, it has to be, in a sense, enough time to have basically hurt you enough to want to heal from it and to do something about it. And a lot of it is the resistance to it, to the situation. The resistance is the problem. It is what causes the pain, because once you accept it, it's hard for that pain to still linger. I can drive past the same buildings today, and instead of passing them and being overwhelmed with sadness, I get overwhelmed with joy and gratitude for having been able to do that with my father now. But it wasn't until I fully accepted the fact that he was gone. Can't change that. And so that, in the sense, to me, was letting it go, but not stuffing it down, because there's a difference. When you tuck things down and still carry them pockets of resistance, you will continue to suffer. So the fact of the matter is, you really have to, surrender to the isness of it again, or fully accept it, and then you can begin to heal by creating that space to allow the peace to come in, and that joy and that gratitude for what is, and hopefully somewhere within there, you can extract a lesson from it as why this happened to you. And like April was saying, that everything has memory, and when you hear a certain voice and that triggers you, that's because your ears have memory. You can be in a crowded facility of 1,000 people and hear your father's voice 50 yards away and get drawn right to it. Or you can scan the room and see one of your best friends in a crowd of 10,000 people, and your eyes will go right to your friend. That's the memory. Taste a certain food, your tongue has memory. Every cell in your body has the memories, and them all become active because of the thought patterns or the trigger that gets you that tension and stuff. But again, it's going back to the past, to the situation when it comes up naturally, and then sit with it and allow it to be embraced, it, accept it, and hopefully that does the trick. And you'll know whether it does or not, because it will be peaceful after that. I hope. But the problem is carrying that around, and it's through condition that we have them triggers, because we're used to responding to them for so long. The longer that you have momentum to react in that way, something that scares you and brings you into a state of fear, the more momentum it has, unfortunately. But you can stop that by fully, as Travis is going to say, going within and sitting with it and allowing it to be, embracing it, accepting it, and then moving forward.
Thank you so much, Caesar. Beautiful. Travis, did you want to say something about healing the initial wound, that the resistance may actually be a pattern from the initial wound? Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, I guess when I look at it, what comes to mind for me is I guess what would make sense is that if there is some universality to it, the common thread of that initial wound or trauma or pain or hurt or kind of break or whatever is disjunct, you know. And I think that it's, you know, gosh, it's I mean, what it seems like for me is it's an unconscious misapprehension of self, of who we are. The events change. They look different for everybody, the way that these things play out. But I don't know if I can think of anybody in this world that I've ever come across who hasn't felt alone or questioned their sense of worth if they've looked at it at all. And so there's something that goes on there about who we are, and you know what, so and again in our lives, what's going to happen is, because everything that happens in our lives is invariably fleeting. It's true for a while, and then it reaches its point, and then it's no longer the case. And so all those things that we want and we stake our sense of self in, it can be extremely painful when those things come to an end and they're no longer there, whether it's the people that we love, it's our parents, but you can look at anything and go, is this always going to be true? And you can ask, when this is no longer true, what then is remaining? What's true then? And so the situation stays the same, in that our consciousness, our sense of who we are, it's constantly trying to attach itself to circumstances and events, and people are circumstances. You know, we are. There's somebody there. There's something there, but it's a circumstance that comes and goes. And so, you know, for me, it's about recognizing what comes and goes, including aspects of myself, and then being able to ask the question, is there any aspect of myself, is there any aspect of what is that I can recognize right now that doesn't change, that doesn't come and go? And that's the only place that I'm going to find my salvation, because that's the only thing that won't let me down. Because if it comes, it goes, and that's what I'm equating to being let down. So it's not there anymore. And so, but I can just, I know I'm kind of just going all over the place with this, but and not worrying too much about staying exactly on topic. But one thing that am seeing lately, maybe more than before, is that when I look at pain, there's a beauty to it. Maybe not when I'm really up close to it. It almost reminds me of, fire. If you're in it, it might not seem so beautiful. All you can think is, how can I keep from being in this? How can I keep from feeling this hurt? But if at some point in some way we're able to stand back from the pain, it's almost like standing back from a burning fire, and you can see it and go, you know what, that's marvelous, that's beautiful. And I can have a healthy respect for it, and know that it like, I know Eckhart Tolle talks about, and I feel like it's soaking in deeper and deeper, that it really is a great teacher. It is almost like a fire or something, where if we understand our relationship with it, then it's not a threat to us anymore, and we're not trying to avoid pain. That's the second arrow, is when we try to avoid that pain, and And so that's what I feel like I'm working towards right now is trying to go, okay, well, what's most difficult? Let me turn to face that. That's what I want to be able to do. And I think that's what we all want to be able to do, is to muster up that courage and bravery, and feel empowered and not feel threatened. And so there is, I don't know anybody who doesn't know pain. It's one of, it's probably the primary unifying factor amongst all people, even beyond knowing that which is beyond pain. So we all have that in common, is pain. We all can't go anywhere. And when we can recognize that and share that with others, there's this degree of authenticity that shines through. All of a sudden we're open to one another, we're listening to one another, we're respecting one another, because we know, I know pain too. We all know pain. And so it's a great tool for initiating authentic relating with one another and seeing a unifying theme. And I think what we're growing into within ourselves as individuals and in turn collectively is also recognizing the other unifying factor, which that is the essence of who we all are, that transcends pain. Eventually, I think there will be more and more and more of us, you know, that can see that part, not just the pain part that connects us, but the transcendence of pain. So I'll stop there.
Thank you so much, Travis.
Mhm.
Caesar, we can see you on video though. Okay. You may not be able to see us, but we can see you, so don't make any gestures. Don't say anything wrong. We can see you. Thank you so much, Travis. Sorry, I saw his message saying he's not on video, so I wanted to make sure that that is amazing, Travis. It is a very unifying, what Eckhart calls 333 suffering, right? In India, when we have a guru, we call them Sri so-and-so. So Eckhart calls it 333 suffering, that everyone has a spiritual teacher, even if they don't follow a spiritual teacher. What I love about Marla is at the age that she's at, she's like wanting to accelerate her awakening. Like she'll ask questions one after deeper and deeper and deeper. Even during group meditation, she's the one that is asking the most questions, because there's a digging, right? You can see the consciousness coming through in the digging, and trying to find more and more answers. What can I do? What can I shift now that will make me more conscious? So I find that so humbling, so humbling. So I had another question, which is maybe a fun question from Summer, but I'll have to. So everybody's gonna have to remember this. It was a really, really, really long question. I'm gonna try and shorten it. April, I'll start with you. She said something that a son and a mother went to the mall, and the son suddenly felt like he was in some kind of a zone where he saw a spitting image of himself, another person on there. And Summer was saying that you're not supposed to, it almost is like a parallel universe kind of situation, that the other person showed up from the parallel universe. Have you ever heard of something of that sort?
Yeah, I actually know that question. Or she talked to me about that question.
Okay.
Where and it was uh it was very long. It was about somebody running into themselves. So you know the theory that we all have our twin right here. And also the theory that we are living out multiple lifetimes at the same time. And well, I think that it could happen. I think it's something that could happen. It's not, I think this would definitely be probably a Kelly question for sure, right? And he would probably, I don't even know what he would say. But I do think that it's possible. I do think that you could run into perhaps yourself. The issue with the question was is they were afraid when they seen their self, they were afraid. They didn't want to approach that person because it was deemed as bad. I don't know that it's bad. I don't know. I mean, that's why I think maybe Kelly would know if it was necessarily bad. The only thing that I could think of is it's kind of like when you watch those movies and they say, don't mess with the past, like by running into that person, would you be changing the timeline? Right. But then I also thought, well, when things happen in life like that, like synchronicities, like, you know, the synchronicity that we had today, the light bulb going out, the song coming on, those are all events that are set on purpose. That's the universe waking you up. That's the universe saying, hey, pay attention. This crazy synchronicity just happened. How did that just happen? That's the universe working for you to remove some of that veil, to wake you up to your ultimate possibility, and that there is unlimited possibility, which is what Source is. Source is infinite possibilities, and Source is continuously growing. And so part of me thinks that while there was fear there initially with that scenario, I think it happened on purpose for that person to wake up, because not everybody gets that concept of multiple timelines. It's a very hard concept to get, that I am not just this one soul, I am this infinite soul. And because I think right now, I like to be in this lifetime and that's it. And I remember when my brother died, having that question of, well, how can he be up there, but be here? But how does that work? And getting confused over that. So it's a very difficult concept to grasp, that I could be living multiple timelines at the same time. But ultimately, I do think that it was a synchronicity that happened on purpose to awaken the consciousness. And perhaps by that happening to that person, he will greater understand that multiple timeline perception, right? Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, April. Yeah, I think, isn't there, like in science, they say it's a holograph, like even the universe right now is a holograph, and there's a holograph of infinite parallel universes. So we may be talking on a panel right now, but in some other universe, we are not talking on a panel, right? That's why the paradox always exists. That's the potentiality of the present moment. What's happening in this isness of this moment is also not, right? So thank you. Caesar, did you want to say something about this parallel universe? And she said something about It's like that superhighway that was recently discovered in space. I don't know anything about a superhighway, so I'll have to Google search it. Google will have an answer about it.
Mike, can you reiterate the question?
So a mom and a son went to the mall, and the son suddenly said, "Oh, I see." It almost is his like a himself, like a mirror image of himself, another person that is himself, like a twin, right? But it's from a parallel universe. It's not.
Yeah,
Somebody that exists in this universe. Like it almost is like a time warp where space and time collapsed and two things, the probability of two things happened at the same time.
yeah. I believe we definitely are shifting through probably thousands of parallel universes constantly, and depending on the level of consciousness you are or frequency you vibrate at will determine the parallel universe in which you experience. Because I believe we are constantly shifting there. That synchronicity as well, like April was saying, he had to see that. It was completely by the divine intervention, or maybe you can call it something else, but it had to happen that way in order for that truer self perhaps to advance in some way, whatever it is that the universe was offering, by way of having that person experience that, whether he was aware what was actually happening or not. It happened for a divine reason, no doubt. And I found that being present, in presence, the universe is constantly giving us impulses. Our soul is constantly flashing a beacon saying, "Hey, I'm over here, I'm over here." Our soul knows the path of least resistance, and the universe, on the other hand, is constantly sending out impulses in the same way that our soul is searching for them. Now, when we are in presence, we have the ability to recognize them impulses, and it could be just walking down the street per se and overhearing a conversation and going, "Wow, I needed to hear that. That was for me." And without question, it was. It's them little things that are for our greater selves to grow and to further our journey and our experience, and ultimately expand. After all, that is what we came here to do. So I believe that them are true synchronicities. I also believe that we are living, the past, future, and present moment are happening at the same time. Yeah, them are the parallel universes, though. So again, the level of consciousness you obtain in combination with the frequency in which you vibrate, and your perception on what it is that's happening around you, I guess maybe determine what reality, what parallel universe you are experiencing presently. I believe a lot of that happens in our sleep, and maybe this is the state of the dream, in the awakened state, when we are talking and experiencing life. Maybe this is just the dream, and perhaps when we exit the world of form, maybe then it is when we are truly awakened, and that will be another parallel universe when we get there.
So is it like the fourth dimension? They say 4D or 5D, right?
I would say so. I believe that this world is heading for the fifth dimension by what's about to take place over the next 20 years, more than likely. I think there's a great awakening happening currently. The shift of the totality is happening at a high rate. I think the overall frequency of this planet is changing ever so fast. Given the events that are taking place and are about to take place. And I think we are soon to experience the fifth dimension, maybe not in our particular lifetime, but and the later ones coming for sure. I think that's where we're heading in a brief time.
And when you say fifth dimension, what does that mean for people that may not have?
To me, I've touched the fifth dimension a couple of times. It is just, it's a place lost of fear, and very little, if any, negativity. It's almost, you could describe it as heaven, if you'd like. Things are very vibrant and clarity is in abundance. There's not a lot of confusion. And I think April made a statement before a few lives ago about when do we get to come back and just be and live and smile and have fun and not have to go through all these agonizing lessons one after another.
That's it.
I believe that's what she was talking about, was a fifth dimension, where everything is just pure beauty, and where it's a world devoid of fear and negativity and low vibing things and thoughts and stuff like that.
Beautiful. Thank you.
It's the thoughts. It's so shifting a dimension is shifting consciousness. Because we're not actually going to leave and go anywhere. Some people have this fear like, oh, where are we going to go? What's Earth going to look like? We're going to be right here, but we will be vibrating faster. We'll be much more peaceful. We'll be in presence and stay in presence. So it's a lifting of consciousness, actually.
Absolutely, perfectly said. Perfect.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Caesar and April. Appreciate it. Y'all are on fire today. Talk about Travis talking about fire. Travis, you wanted to speak about so many questions.
Sure. Well, I think when I'm at my best, and I look at each of you, I see my doppelganger. I see myself, and I could look at my own face on the Zoom chat and see a facet of who I am. When I'm at my worst, I probably think I'm just Travis. But that's when I'm identified with limitations. Travis will come to pass. Will I be any less who I am when that comes to pass? And so I think that the more our consciousness turns in on itself and is able to be to self-reflect and ask the question, who am I? The more we let go of and detach from the bondage of identity, and we become more of a spacious, almost identityless identity, if you will. And our heart opens and we see ourselves and others. And I also think that perhaps when that happens, energy is freed up and life can unfold in more strange and interesting ways, similar to what the example is in the situation where things happen that are actually kind of reality bending. An event comes to mind in my experience as this Travis that I happen to be in a way for now. In late 2018, I think it was late 2018, I helped a friend. It was my girlfriend at the time. We met through this Native American shaman couple, and we put on a yoga and shamanism retreat in Sedona, Arizona. And I was volunteering to help with whatever needed to be done, setting things up, breaking things down, just volunteering. And there was one other person who was volunteering. At the time, I had a big white Toyota Tundra pickup truck, and we meet this other guy. I'd never met him before. He was friends with the shaman couple, and he shows up in this big white pickup truck. And so we have these two volunteers in the big white trucks. we both had big, giant sacred geometry stickers in the back middle window of our trucks.
Oh, wow.
We both had the same little Buddha glued on our dashboards. We're both bald and wear baseball caps, and it was pretty funny and strange. And you go, I don't know what to make of this, but you know, you can't make this stuff up. You know, it's just really feels kind of fun and special and entertaining. You know, it was also strange when me and my ex split up and I came back to Berkeley, and I was hanging out with an old friend from my meditation community who had an adopted baby, and we dated for a very short time. We knew from the beginning we're not like we're meant to be partners or anything, but it was very strange because you know, their names. One's named Rima, the other's name is Rita. They're both Scorpio. They're both from Hindu parents that live on the East Coast. They what else? They're both single mothers of daughters. Their daughter's names rhyme. Rita's adopted daughter is part Native American from New Mexico, which I thought was a funny twist on the whole thing. I go, this is too strange. This is so weird, you know. So there are situations that can happen like that, I suppose. I mean, that's my experience with it, but it's you know, I think ultimately our sense of identity it rises, or it becomes more refined, it shifts, it evolves. And there's something deep inside of us that knows that all those things can go. All those things can go. I don't need those things to be who I am. And that's my peace. Because just think, if I needed to hang on to something that invariably was going to slip through my fingers anyway, to be who I am, or to feel complete, or to see myself. And so while these things can be playful and fun and entertaining, it is kind of like it is like a hologram. It is like a little dance on the screen or a play. And we all partake, you know, we all give our very best performance, so utterly convincing that we forget who we are in it more often than not. And we get identified with the characters that we play. But really we're the actors, you know, we're the directors, and we're the orchestrators, and we're the writers of these stories, whether we know it or not. And so, and the stories the book can close, and nothing is lost. We're not any less who we are, oftentimes more maybe who we are when the book closes, when the lights go down, or the curtain closes, or the book closes, or whatever it is. And we can see with perfect clarity that we are not dependent upon the story, but in fact, it's absolutely the opposite of that. The story is utterly dependent upon who we are, and so anyways, I think I'm bumping up against my degree of understanding, so I'll stop there.
What I love is the synchronicity between what happened before we joined the panel. I was discussing something with April, and April said, oh, I wish, we were talking about something, setting up workshops, and she said she had just put out a wish that whatever needs to come to her needs to just come to her. And here I am, not even aware of what she wished, and I'm offering it, right? Let's do some workshops and maybe sell those workshops, kind of thing. So when we see events of that kind, right, Travis? And I write that in my book, in the preface of my book, that synchronicity is something when it happens, it filters, it's almost like that burst. It's like a catalyst. It's a burst in our energy field, which says, yeah, we are on the right path. Yeah, I have that power. April would have felt so empowered in that moment when, boom, she's not expecting Poonam to say anything, right? But here, out of left field, comes Poonam saying, we were just discussing something, and I went, hey, I'm thinking of, I've done this mastermind thing, and the first thing I don't think I can do a course yet, but I can set up workshops, right? Get all of you to join and do workshops. Maybe we'll break it up and all that. And she's like, I just thought of it, right? April wants to say something.
I did literally like yesterday, maybe 2 days ago at the most, but I think it was yesterday. I said, well, you're going to have to bring me somebody because, and I literally just left it at that. Like if this, so I took the concept of you as source, know what you want me to do. I have an idea, but you know what you want me to do. So you're going to have to bring it to me. And then Poonam said that. And I was like, really? Just really? It was just, I really did not expect that at all.
So when you see that, right? Like, so you are that connected, Travis. Did you see that synchronicity? That you're connected to, like all of you are so connected to source, just like Lakshmi. So I told Lakshmi that I bought Sadhguru's audiobook, Karma. And later on, a few days later, she said, look, what I have is the book Karma in her hand, right? She took a picture of it and she sent it to me as text. And she said, one of her friends was walking on the airport, right? Coming from India. And this is what she picked up at the airport for Lakshmi, is the book Karma. But the conversation we had was entirely different. I was just telling her, so maybe a thought arose in her mind, right? That she needed the book Karma and her friend picked it up. She didn't ask her friend to pick up the book Karma. The same thing, do you remember, have you watched all of the School of Awakening videos? Have you kept up with the course? Yeah. Did you watch the Q&As and everything?
I haven't watched all of the Q&As. I've probably watched half of Kim's, and I might have missed one or of Eckhart Tolle's.
Okay, so
I've watched the majority of
majority. I don't know if it was last week or the week before. I think it was the week before. Some woman was asking Eckhart about there were so many deaths in her family and how to work with them. And he was describing something about YouTube videos, right? Like he watches YouTube videos of the 1920s, 1950s, where people are black and white and they move fast. The thought arose in my mind, I don't have any pictures of my mom and dad that are black and white. The black and white of his brought that image in my mind that I don't have any. I mean, I have literally no pictures of my childhood or my parents because I've moved, like I'm separated, right? I'm divorced. So I've left that home 15 years back or something. I don't know where anything is, and I've not gone back to India to go get more pictures, right? And so a few days later, Thursday, Monday, my son goes to his paternal grandparents' house, and they don't talk to me because of the divorce. He goes to their house, he brings an envelope that his grandmother has given him, and he gives it to me on Monday. I open the envelope and here are pictures of these are people that don't physically talk to me. I haven't seen them. And those are the pictures of my mother and father, black and white. Like my mother is like 20 years old or 28 years old. So incredible. right? Synchronicity. So that's why you're blessed. So
I think what comes into being, what, you know, in the manifest reality and our capacity to visualize in our mind's eye are so much closer and more one than we might often think.
yes.
Yeah, and I think that as we deepen or become more aligned in our consciousness, that those two become more and more, you know, overlapping, identical as one, where what we see in our mind's eye and what is become more and more one and the same somehow. I don't totally understand it, but yeah.
Beautiful. On that note, I think we should end the day. Eternally grateful for everyone, the group meditators, the core group meditators. They always come up with content for this Facebook Live Q&A. So I'm eternally grateful to them. I'm eternally grateful for all of you. The other synchronicity I want to tell you, Travis, is I was flabbergasted because when I looked at the question, which came from Marla is very connected to you. I was thinking Travis needs to show up today. And I never messaged you. I never talked to you. I never said anything, even on our chat. I never said Travis. I almost was going to do it when I was responding to Louise. I was going to ask Travis, are you going to be there? And I did not. And look what Source gave me. So humbled. Many blessings to all of you. I am so eternally grateful for each and every one of you as well on the panel. Thank you. And everybody feel well, whoever is not feeling well, and be back next week. We'll see you all on Wednesday. I know you're going on vacation, but whenever you're back, I always invite all of you, right? So good night. Have a wonderful day. Bye.